people say that everything in the past is better than nowadays. I disagree. In the past, there have been a lot of cases of mass murder. I don't think anyone wants to return to those days. The First and Second World War, the wars between England and France, but also, more recently, the shooting in the shopping mall in Alphen aan den Rijn, are but a few examples of mass murder. How can something so terrible happen? Why does it happen? And are there any positive sides on mass murder? That is what I wanted to find out. In a lot of novels, people write about mass murder. For example, in Maus, a novel from Art Spiegelman, and in King Henry V from William Shakespeare. So you can say mass murder can be an inspiration for writers, but also other artists are sometimes inspired by the cruel events like mass murder. There are, for example, a lot of famous paintings about the Battle of Waterloo. Before I go into the novels and their connection with mass murder, I have to explain what mass murder exactly is. Mass murder is an act of killing a number of people, typically simultaneously, or over a short period of time, and in close geographic proximity. The FBI defines mass murder as murdering 4 or more people during an event with no cooling off period between the murders. According to this definition, a mass murder typically occurs in a single location where 1 or more people kill several others. I would like to start with Maus. In this graphic novel from Art Spiegelman, a lot of people get killed. The novel is about how Art Spiegelman's father, Vladek Spiegelman, experienced the Second World War as a Jew. The Jews are portrayed as mouses, the Poles as pigs, and the Germans as cats. The hate towards the Jews, towards the mouses, just the Jews, keeps increasing the further the story goes. In the beginning, the mouses are not allowed to work anymore, and they need coupons for food. Further in the story, the mouses get deported to concentration camps like Auschwitz. In the story, it is called Mauswitz. In these camps, they get killed if they are weak, and have to work very hard if they are strong, until they become weak because of the hard work and limited food, and then they also get killed. In total, the Germans killed between 5 and 6 million Jews. This is a very clear example of mass murder. The way the most Jews were killed was by the gas chamber. They were put in a big room with what seemed like shower heads in the ceiling, but there came no water out of the heads. Instead, a deadly gas, Zyklon B, came out. The Jews also got shot. They were given too little food, so they died of starvation, or they died because they got sick and were not helped in the right way. The reason the Germans were after the Jews is because of Hitler. After losing the First World War, the Germans blamed the Jews. They saw them as insects that weakened Germany. In this case, there are no positive sides to the mass murder of the Jews in the Second World War, from my point of view. Only for the Nazis, it's probably a good thing that so much Jews were killed, because they were like insects to them. Near the end of the novel, the mouses are saved by the Americans. I like how the Americans are portrayed as dogs by Art Spiegelman, because they win over the Germans who are cats. Despite the seemingly good ending, because Vladek and Anja, who is Vladek's wife in this story, survived. It was not a very happy ending because almost everyone from Vladek's and Anja's family was dead after the Holocaust. Another case of mass murder is portrayed in Shakespeare's novel King Henry V. In this novel, the English fight against the French. The war started because Henry wants to claim the Salic land in France because, according to the law, it belongs to England. The French don't want this to happen, so they are willing to fight for the land. Henry marches towards Agincourt with a small army. there were many more French soldiers than there were English soldiers. The French soldiers were fighting under Charles VI. It was a very long battle and the English were running out of supplies. The French were sure that they were going to win, but Henry V was a very inspiring king. He fought side by side with his soldiers and was a true leader. Right before entering the battlefield, Henry gave a very motivating speech. This helped the English soldiers. By fighting with all their heart for their motherland and good tactics, the English won the battlefield. Some English and a lot of French soldiers died. The way they died was horrible. Some got shot by arrows, which pierced through their armor. Some were decapitated with a sword, and others were pierced by spears, which was a very painful death. You would bleed to death. The soldiers who died right away, so the ones that got decapitated, were the lucky ones, because they did not have to suffer. For the English, this case of mass murder was very positive, because they were victorious because of it. This is a good example of the positive side effects of mass murder, because Henry got the land that he thought he deserved. After celebrating the victory in England, Henry comes back to France to make peace. In the end, Henry even marries Charles VI, his daughter, Catherine, and makes treaties that will ensure that Henry's and Catherine's sons will be heirs to the French throne. Before the Second World War, there was the First World War, also known as the Great War. It took place from 28 July 1914 to 11 November 1918, and it was described as the war to end all wars. 9 million soldiers and 7 million civilians died during the war. This makes it one of the most deadly wars in the history. During the war, a lot of poems were written about it, the cruelty of the war and about the love towards their motherland. In The Soldier by Rupert Brooke, there is written about a positive effect of dying in a battlefield of a foreign country. He wrote, "If I should die, think only this of me, that there some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. There shall be in that rich earth a richer dust concealed." In this poem, Rupert Brooke wants to make clear that even if an English soldier dies on the battlefield, he will still spread love and make the evil go away. This shows the love for the motherland the writer has, which is England. A poem that portrays the cruelty of the war very well is A Dead Butch by Robert Graves. Yes, he wrote, "To you who'd read my songs of war and only hear of blood and fame, I'll say, you've heard it said before, war's hell. And if you doubt the same, today I found in Mamet's wood a certain cure for the lust of blood, where propped against a shattered trunk, in a great mass of things unclean, sat a dead butch, he soiled and stunk, with clothes and a face sodden green, big-bellied, spectacled, crop-haired, dribbling black blood from nose and beard." You can imagine how cruel it was to see a dead body in the way it is described in this poem. So it shows very well how cruel the First World War used to be. Now I have told you about some cases of mass murder in the past. The motives to start these mass murders mostly had to do with wanting more power. When someone really wants to be powerful, they are often ruthless. They are prepared to do a lot for this. Everyone who stands in the way has to vanish. People were shot, pierced, bombed, and even gassed to their death. All these cases of mass murder have left a great impact behind. In the Netherlands, for example, every year at the 4th of May at 8 o'clock there are 2 minutes of silence to remember those who have lost their lives during World War II. Even nowadays, also young people respect those 2 minutes. That shows the impact of this war. Even 75 years later, it is still an emotional moment for a lot of people in the Netherlands. For most people, mass murder does not have any positive side effects, except for the ones who committed the murders, and maybe the artists who got inspired by those horrific events. With all of the nuclear weapons there are today, we have to pray and hope that such events never happen again, because there will probably die hundreds of millions of people, and the world will never be the same. So we have to remember all these cruelties and keep talking about them, so we will never forget the impact. That's the only positive effect I can see in all this, because we know how terrible mass murder is, and how big the impact is. We will do our very best to prevent it and from happening again. Hopefully we learned from the mistakes we made in the past, and these were really big mistakes. So I hope we never make them again. However, as can be seen today, not only weapons can cause mass murder. A virus is also very dangerous. It can literally kill hundreds of people and figuratively thousands of companies in a short time and be a mass murderer of its own. And I can think of no positive side effect on that.